Make sure you're following Seeking Center, the podcast, so you never miss an episode of life-changing conversations, aha moments, and some deep soul wisdom. I'm Robin Miller Brecker.
And I'm Karen Lenzer. Welcome to Seeking Center, the podcast.
Join us each week as we have the conversations and weed through the spiritual and holistic clutter for you. We'll boil it down to what you need to know now.
We're all about total wellness, which to us means building a healthy life on a physical, mental, and spiritual level. We'll talk to the trailblazers who will introduce you to the practices, products, and experiences that may be just what you need to hear about to transform your life.
If you're listening to this, it's no accident. Think of this as your seeking center and your place to seek your center. And for the best wellness and spiritual practitioners, experts, products, experiences, and inspo, visit theseekingcenter.com. You know, sometimes you meet people and instantly you're like, oh, you're our people. That's exactly how we felt when we connected with this power couple, Stephanie Lytle and Aaron Douglas. They're the dynamic duo behind High Vibe Collective, the Sedona-based concierge of retreat experiences, customizing synchronistic alignment for your highest good. They've created a collective of practitioners who are walking the walk, talking the talk, and communicating telepathically, if you know what we mean. Stephanie comes from the entrepreneurship world, creating 6 different businesses across the country. She is both a business and life coach and believes that everyone truly gets to live the life of their dreams. She's all about manifesting and has developed a system helping her clients push past their limitations and blockages, aligning with their highest outcome. Aaron is all about reconnecting you with your body. He is a craniosacral therapist, peaceful bodywork practitioner, and yoga instructor. His mission is to anchor a large population into their bodies to allow them to create new generational patterns. Aaron guides people into an easy and relaxed state of consciousness that travels with them throughout all areas of their lives. Together, they're redefining what it means to live a high vibe life. Whether you're curious about shifting your consciousness or you're looking for some peace and revitalization, get ready for a conversation that will light you up and maybe even crack your heart open just a little bit. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Robin.
Hello.
Oh, in Sedona.
Our favorite place, we were just saying. And there's something about people who live in Sedona, you radiate this Sedona light. And for those who can't see you two, your eyes, I'm just glued to your eyes. You have such light within. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you so
excited to
much.
be here.
We love how things are synchronistic and we're always meeting at the exact right time. So tell us, for you, what was that moment when you both knew it was time to shift something in your lives and lead you on this path that brought you to Sedona?
Yeah, I can share. So my path started many years back when I feel like I had this spiritual awakening, essentially. And what happened on the external reality was that I actually ended up in a mental hospital. So I had went manic and then not really known how to integrate into my body again. And so that was back in 2009. That started my healing journey of just going inward and understanding myself, understanding how we work as these functional humans that walk the earth here. Fast forward a few years to going through a separation in a marriage and then ultimately leading to a divorce, wanting to find my own happiness again and really figure out how to put my head on straight and continue to be in integrity with who I am and how I want to walk the world. And I remember I looked at my dog one day and I thought, where does mommy go to find happy? And her eyes just said, Sedona. And I had been here a few times. So I listened because she was my soul dog. So I came here to Sedona 6 years ago, and I thought I was just going to be staying for a little bit of time, doing a little bit of healing work on myself. And the energy here, Mama Sedona, she really captured me and I couldn't leave. So I was here for just a few months and I was like, this is my home. And that was 6 years ago.
Wow. And prior to that, just going back to when you said that you had that moment and you were manic, how was it that you realized that there was this way of actually bringing yourself back into your body and then understanding those different layers of consciousness?
Yeah, great question. I think I knew it like in me, but it was actually many years into my journey where I really actually learned it. At that point in my life, I was working one-on-one with a therapist, but it was years until I realized different types of modalities. It wasn't really until I came here to Sedona that I understood meditation deeper and breath work and grounding and actually earthing, things like that. But I think I knew it existed. So I just kept seeking it.
Yeah. And before you came to Sedona, you were very much on that entrepreneur and still are, but that journey, how did that manifest itself for you?
Oh, I was just tired of working for the man.
Yeah.
For lack of better wording, I was like, I think it gets to feel differently. And so I furthered my education. And at that point in my career, I actually became a professional dog trainer. I learned everything there was to know about dog training. I love animals. I love knowing how things work. And that slowly graduated into business coaching to help other people really find their passion and start something so they don't have to be working for the man.
It's funny how so many of us, we go on our path towards our passion, and then it leads us almost to a breaking point where we have to just literally stop and restart ourselves over. And for you, it's so amazing that you had that opportunity, that sense of listening to your inner calling, and you actually answered it. I think so many of us might have that little voice in our head that would say, it's time to go, or it's time to do this, or it's time to pivot. And we don't listen. And sometimes it does take a breaking point for us to really let go of everything that we think we know and start over. So kudos to having that strength and listening. I think it's a great message for so many of our listeners to pay attention to as well.
Yeah. And Erin, what about you? What was the moment for you that invited you to make a shift and then go to Sedona?
There were two different defining moments for me. One of them was a couple of years before I felt the call to move to Sedona. And that was this moment where I was laying in bed and I felt trapped in my body. I didn't have the same connection to my body then that I have now, but I felt like I was constricted. I was laying in bed. I couldn't feel comfortable or fall asleep, and I couldn't really breathe. It just felt and tight and weird. I didn't even know how to understand what I was feeling. It was just off. And I couldn't stay in the same position. Something made me move. So I ripped the covers off. I went outside. There was a brick patio, and it was basically the middle of the night at this point. And I just laid on the brick patio. It was a little bit chilly at night. I took everything off that I could to get all of my skin on the brick. And I started to come to life. I started gasping for air. The cold touch on my skin lit me up, and I started to feel energy flow through my body. I started to feel expansion happen in my body. So then I was breathing and stretching and then doing things that are basically yoga poses. And that shifted my mentality from not thinking about my connection with my body to, oh my gosh, there's so much inside of my body and there's something here. So that's what really put me into this state of mind where, oh my gosh, I have a little more control over my consciousness and well-being than I thought. And it was feeling so trapped that helped me actually break out of that. So then fast forward a couple of years, I had gone through yoga teacher training, started learning craniosacral therapy, and I was actually pursuing things that I liked at this point. And I felt more embodied in myself than ever. And I started to outgrow where I was living. I was outgrowing the apartment I was in, the part of town I was in, how close to nature I was. It was a minimum of an hour drive to get anywhere interesting to me. And it was that moment where I just wasn't actually happy. I was the opposite of happy. I was blatantly unhappy with my surroundings, with my environment, and just the overall experience of my life. So I started to realize, hey, I don't have to stay here. I'm not tied to any particular environment. Things started to free up. My training programs were coming to an end. My apartment lease hit month to month. There was just no reason to not explore life. And so I considered Hawaii or Sedona because I wanted to go somewhere that felt exciting. And ultimately, it was just a lot easier to make the move to Sedona. And so that's what happened. And that was also about 6 years ago. We didn't know each other yet, but we moved here just right about the same time. And that move was me getting rid of a ton of stuff, packing up what I wanted into my car, and without a plan or anything, just driving up to Sedona and starting with nothing, no money, no anything except a calling to live more free.
Oh, Aaron, you're singing my song.
You really are. Like Karen's like, okay, if he can do it.
I'm getting goosebumps from head to toe because I just admire again, listening and heeding the call and going. And one of the things that both of you have said is it's almost that, again, you're feeling at a certain point in your life, you're where you should be, and yet you're so unhappy. And there's this entrapment, like you were saying. It's like this idea of like really being caught in our own bodies and not being free. And this other idea too of Sedona, again, looking at the two of you as land as medicine for both of you. There's something about the experience, the vortex, whatever it is that's there, that literally, if you can get yourself planted in that environment, in that soil, there is a whole new flowering that takes place as us as human beings. We just need to get there. So talk about how you met. How did you come together?
Yeah, so we met through friends, and then we actually were just acquaintances for about a year and a half, and then we started spending actual time as friends. And then from there, it turned into a little more than that. And it was actually interesting. When we first met, neither of us looked at each other, oh, hey, that's my person. Yeah, neither of us were very interested in each other in that way, just as loose friends or acquaintances.
Yeah.
And actually, I remember the first time meeting Stephanie, my first reaction was, what is this person? It wasn't even a neutral reaction. I was almost like, wait, what am I working with here? But what's really...
Thank you.
This is part of the interesting thing about it, right? But as time went on, and let's say fast forward a year and a half, we both had done our own work and embodiment and became more of who we actually are. And that really showed. She had invited me over to hang out with people at her place a year and a half later, and it was a dinner get together or whatever. And from there, I started to feel this like magnetic energy from her. And she looked healthier, more vibrant. Things just looked like she was being her even more. And so I started to take to her in a different way. And there was a clear distinction between when you first moved to Sedona and a year and a half later. Very visual, clear distinction. And that's how we originally met. And it's just funny looking back on that, because shortly after we started actually hanging out, I started to look at her like, wow, I might want to date her. I wonder if I could even pull that off. I felt like she was a rung or two above, out of my league. And she's also older than me. And so there was this thing inside of me that really wanted to win that contest of how can I get her? That became the goal. And slowly but surely, I just let that energy cultivate inside of me. And over time, I guess she started to see me a little bit differently, and it worked out in both of our favors.
Stephanie, do you feel the same? Did you?
Yeah, I want to know
Actually,
too.
when you met Aaron?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah. So when we met, he doesn't even remember this, but he was working at a local restaurant in town and he like waited on our table. So that's how I remember like seeing him for the first time. And then, yeah, so we ran in the same circles. It's a small town here in Sedona. And for myself, I was really healing from this toxic relationship pattern choices that I was like, I don't even know what a healthy man looks like. So I remember from where I was sitting, I was actually following the guidance of this mentor in the Buddhist community. And she said, Stephanie, you need to wait until you have 10 incredible guys who are lined up, ready and waiting to date you before you pick one to choose from. And so I was like, Jesus, how long is that going to take? It didn't take very long. I didn't realize. So at this point in my life, though, I was just like, okay, making friends. That was it. That was literally it.
Yeah.
Making friends, just having a clear boundary. I'm working on me. And then I'm learning, what does a healthy masculine look like in all of these divine reflections in my friendships? So yeah, Aaron's right. We started hanging out more. I was like inviting him over. We were doing fun, kind of like family dinner gatherings and things like that at my place. And he started noticeably becoming the person in the room who was really seeking authentic connection with me the most. and really listening. You were really listening to what my body needed most of the time, still to this day, almost more than I am able to listen to. So I would just look over and notice whatever he was doing was calming me. And then I remember even there was like a moment where some of our other friends were like, Erin, what are you doing? And you were like, I'm just noticing what Stephanie needs, so I'm like dimming the lights. It was something simple like that where I was just like, wow, he really sees me and he really sees that. And so it's interesting because in our comparison story, that was about the same time that he started being like, wow, I wonder what it could be like if we were dating. He set his intention, and then my biochemistry started noticing. So it was really fascinating. And yeah, so that was over 4 years ago.
What about at first?
What about at first?
Met? Because I shared very honestly and vulnerably.
Oh, you were?
And I was not interested.
Yeah, no offense, but you were like a little boy. It was like, and we have an age difference. So we have a 12-year age gap between us.
I would not know that. Honestly, for those listening, you'll have to watch the video as well. And you can look at, obviously you can see pictures. Like, I would not know that.
Me neither.
We meet in the middle. So most people think we're about the same age, maybe 2 or 3 years off, which is how we both feel, actually.
Yeah.
Fast forward 5.5 years ago, that was a very different, we both looked different then.
Well,
so
yeah, I'm feeling like what's so interesting is like you really were two separate people or two different people when you met. And you were able to witness the evolution of the work that you were doing, and how fun to be able to recognize and see that development as it actually happened. I feel like you both are the definition of what an authentic relationship really is, because you didn't see yourselves as romantic partners. You saw each other as seekers and recognized that journey you were both on with each other, and how beautiful that it like just led to you being together. And again, for people who are listening and not seeing you, I love like the way you guys look at each other is so beautiful.
It really is. It
Love
really
connection between you. So lovely to just.
It is. And I think to that point of just this idea of how people look, it's really interesting because as you said, Stephanie, I would have thought you were about the same age. It wasn't even on my radar to even think about when we were putting together an outline for questions to ask you. Asking about age was not even on there. So to me, that comes from that place of when you are energetically at the same, on that same frequency, you just look like the same.
Yeah.
Meaning you would not, and as we all know, age is what we feel. But in our society, I know people will ask those kinds of questions around. So it's just interesting.
I think it's the perfect commercial for high vibe. What does high vibe mean to you, and how did that name evolve?
Great question. High vibe to me, high vibrational, is just a way to express clean, high frequency energy, pure intent, lacking ill intent, or lacking clouded energy. To me, it's really this umbrella concept of, hey, if you want to live a high vibrational life, then you're probably going to want to feel aligned in life, be able to feel joy and feel gratitude on a regular basis, and maybe even more often than you feel fear, anger, pity, jealousy, just all the range of expression as a human. It's like, can we focus our energy, our attention, and our intention on things that lift ourselves up and other people? So for me, high vibe means, hey, look, if it's high vibe, no one's feeling awful from it.
Yeah. And it's really not to bypass these like more, you could say negative frequencies or like feelings, emotions, but it's just really thinking about it from even from this manifestation standpoint of what is it that we want. And so if we have stuck and stored energies that are not what we want in us, we have to be able to find a proper way to process those so that we can raise the vibration, right? So it's not bypassing the grief or the anger or the sorrow. It's really being willing to go there and witness those so that it can be let go of, so that it can be healed, so that we can walk around in the energy that we really want to cultivate in the world that we really want to receive that back in.
I love that. And I also want to talk about what was part of this path to get you to even to be able to talk about high vibe, which is you were both, and Stephanie, you said this in the beginning, that you hadn't even tried most of these modalities before coming to Sedona. So We're going to talk about what you both specialize in individually, but what were the different modalities that were able to help you even have that language, really live in this high vibration?
There's so many, but the first one, it's like prayer. That feels really easy and just honest. It's like, are we willing to speak our needs to something that's a little bit outside of us, whatever it is you want to believe in? And are we willing to ask for them to be answered? Are we willing to ask for some help there? And breath work, my goodness, huge for helping the body release what's stuck and stored. And then there's so many different types of energy work and modalities, right? But Reiki energy work, just allowing for an assistance with the body, with the self, for there to be a releasing. And it's so fascinating, right? Because in most places, that's not common. But here in Sedona, it's like on every street corner. So for myself, it was easy to start going to these more group meditations, these group kirtans, things like that, where I was like, inundated with all these different types of energy, dance, oh my goodness, movement, letting the body move. There's ecstatic dance is very big here in Sedona, very big in the community.
It has come up more and more, but I think most people don't know what that is.
Happy to share. So my rendition of the description of ecstatic dance, it's ecstatically moving the body. But when we have these containers of dance here in Sedona, so there's 3 dances every week you can go to. There's no talking on the dance floor. It's generally in a public setting. You know, what's fascinating, and even just for me in my healing journey, I remember loving to dance, but gosh, like coming out of college and in my young adulthood, I wouldn't dance unless I had a few drinks in me. That was just honest, because you're like, people are going to look at me. I don't really have any moves until I have had a few drinks. Just like the things we tell ourselves. And so in part of my healing, I was like, what do I do with all of this that is in my body? How do I get this out? And most of us are good at it, especially like when you're in the car by yourself or no one's looking, but then put you in front of half the town. And now how are you going to move your body? No one's drunk. There's no alcohol. And there's no talking. So you can't like diffuse your discomfort by jibber jabbering on the dance floor. So it's fascinating, right? I started moving my body. I started understanding like, how does my body want to move? And what ways does this energy want to come out? And where do my hips want to be during it? And so I look at ecstatic dance as, how can we move the body in a way that we've never moved it before, in a way that we're not thinking about how we're going to move it, so that we can just catch ourselves and let the energy move through us? And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to do it. And what's great is everyone can.
Oh, I think that I need to be seeking that out in Chicago where I live, and then join you in Sedona. That's really cool.
And I just was realizing, Anna, like I always have aha moments when we have these conversations, but one for me was just how dance has always been part of our culture. It's something thousands of years it goes back, right? And every culture has a different output of that. And yet ours tends to be this showy kind of experience versus really allowing you to follow the energy. The music is a form of vibrational energy, yes, but allowing the body to be the lead versus the follower. So thank you for the definition.
Oh, yeah.
What about you? I know that yoga was obviously a catalyst. And then how did you we're going to talk about craniosacral therapy, but what other, was Reiki a big catalyst for you as well?
So I've experienced different healing modalities since I was born. So right when I was born, there was a chiropractor there who gave me an adjustment, like literally at my birth.
That's so cool. We've had somebody on the Seeking Center podcast who talks about how she believes every child, every newborn should have some sort of adjustment from coming out of womb. You just validated that even in a bigger way.
Yeah, so I was actually flipped around the wrong way. My birth was a home birth, but the chiropractor had a specific maneuver that they do to flip babies, and it worked. And so I was able to be born at home. And then the chiropractor was there and adjusted me once I was in this world. And it started then, but you can get an idea of how I grew up was influenced by healing in general. I had received different types of modalities before I even understood what they were. basically. So then once I became my own adult and own person and realized, oh my gosh, I actually want to develop this for myself. I want to, in this case, learn yoga for the sake of my own body. Yeah, that's what really catapulted me into my own practice and deeper application of it and way to help other people. But Reiki has also impacted me a lot. Meditation has impacted me a lot. There were just different things over time that made a big difference. But I will say it was absolutely the combination of yoga and craniosacral that changed the baseline of my system and also then gave me a platform to help other people have access to that for themselves.
And it's interesting, your upbringing sounds very similar to Karen's.
Yeah. My mom, if she'll be listening to this, she'll be like, oh yeah, we were all at chiropractors from like when I was 12 on. And yeah, everybody thought that was just wacky woo back then. And now we all know better. So I'm sure your mom was similar. We'll have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. And Stephanie, you're all about, you've mentioned manifestation and working with people to get them back on track so that they can actually live the life of their dreams and maybe even build the business of their dreams. What does that look like? How do you use manifestation?
And could you start too with telling us what that word means to you?
Oh, good one. Yeah, manifestation to me, it's not something that just a select few have access to. I actually really believe we are all master manifestors. I really love when we can create proof in the pudding, when we're like, hey, look, see how good I was at doing that thing. Now, maybe you're really good at doing something you don't like, and then you're like, wow, look, I did that. Manifestation to me is really where we create with intention and where that then comes into the physical world around us. So most of us lack the intention, actually. We don't even know what the intention is or how to gain it or how to hold on to it once we have it, how to root it in and anchor it into the body, how to move through our day-to-day reality with it feeling balanced within us, right? Because no matter what body we're in, we have both masculine and feminine aspects to ourselves. So we want to make sure that as we're creating and as we're holding this energy body within us, that we're doing it in a balanced way. And I can just speak from experience in being imbalanced for so many years of my adult life. Really quickly discovered that I was good at building things, but from a masculine place. And then that led to create imbalance in my life and my relationships. And no one wants that. It's like whether or not you want success, no one wants it at the sake of our loved ones or anything like that, right? So then how can we create in a balanced way where we're honoring ourselves, what our needs are? And so when I work with my clients, we work on a lot of life aspects of things too. If it's someone who's starting a business, we're going to build it from the ground up, making sure it's balanced and it's complete. It's not something that we're going to have to build from the rubble years after, right? We're really creating that solid foundation. And even just working from a life coaching aspect, we're really making sure that we're tending to all of the areas that our heart desires. Because we can't just grow and scale and talk about money and wealth and all of those kinds of surroundings, because I feel like that's a really slippery slope of we tell ourselves what we can and can't have. But again, that's where like this intention, I've seen like miraculous, crazy things unfold from just having one clear intention and letting all of the rest of the doubts and feelings around it go away. And then someone randomly is like, oh, hey, here's this thing. I just have an extra one. Do you need it? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Can you give us an example of a client maybe that you've worked with and how that's manifested for them?
Yeah. So some of the women that I work with, let's say moms, they're like ready to stop working the 9 to 5, start working more from home, right? So something simple like just, I like to look at the breakdowns. What do you need in order to quit your job? What's the income that you need in order to quit your job? And then we plan the route to get there. And within 2 to 3 months, they're seeing their income from the job replaced and doubled, and then they're able to quit the job. So for me, it's like these things that we would say societally could just never happen, or it'd take you years to have that. I'm like, F that. We're going to collapse the timelines. Okay. We're going to pull from the powers within and work with the energies that are here for us It's like our God-given right to really be able to create in this world with power. So yeah, we're just moving through it.
I love that. And that is coaching that I think people need because we don't necessarily do that for ourselves. We're taught like, this is how you succeed and you follow these instructions or this specific path, but you don't have someone necessarily helping you to guide those thoughts and really release. Part of that idea that you said of manifestation is that idea of having the intention, but then also releasing the outcome. And that is so hard for people to do, me included.
Yeah, we want a vice grip the wheel. We're like, oh, but I'm going to go this way. And I got to turn left, right first. And I'm like, listen, what I've learned, and Mama Sedona has really taught me that I actually don't want what I'm seeking. I want something better. And I don't know what that looks like actually, but someone does. And so I'm open to that. One of the phrases we say all the time is this or something better. So it's exactly what we're looking for, or it's better than we could have ever imagined. But I don't want to grip onto the thing I'm looking for because then I'm excluding anything that could come in that's better or easier.
Oh, I love that. Would you suggest that's something that someone can even start saying today? I'm thinking of those that are listening right now and they want to do one thing to start better aligning with what they don't even know is possible, but they know that there's something better. Would you say that's something they should start saying? What's something that they can do?
Yeah, to me, it's this or something better. And another one that I love, this affirmation has held me through so much. Everything always works out for me. And we got to believe it because it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen or that there isn't negativity around us that we have to sift through. But it does mean that it is working out for us. And if we can really own that, then we've got our superpower, I think.
Erin, tell us what peaceful body work is. Karen and I had not heard of that before.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first learned craniosacral therapy, like a lot of modalities, you give and receive during the training. So my body was getting the healing work from craniosacral very quickly, very intense, just back to back constantly. And I was also learning how to do that with other people's bodies intensely back to back. It was condensed, right? And so that gave me access to understand how to listen to the body and how to feel and look and see and sense, even beyond the five senses, what's happening in someone's body, what's happening in their psyche, what's going on emotionally, where is that emotion, what part of the body wants my attention. And it's so illogical, it's intuitive. It has nothing to do with logic, ultimately. Sometimes there's some logic that helps, but usually I'm fighting my own brain with logic. I'm like, I have to go to their foot now. This makes no sense. And then later, after the session, someone's, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just knew to go to my foot. So there's this relationship with the body and with the ability to experience peace that I really have nurtured within myself. And it's how I've wanted to give to people. So peaceful body work and having a peaceful body experience is something that I use those words to convey what's going to happen. So a lot of times craniosacral therapy is something you can practice purely within a session. Other times you want to use parts of it and start to maybe use your own craft or other things that you've picked up from different types of modalities. And so typically in a session, if it's a peaceful body experience session, I'm going to incorporate craniosacral, but not stay only with craniosacral and use other intuitive motions or modalities or ways of relating to the body and the person to get to the most peaceful place possible that usually people don't have access to on their own. If you're just laying down and taking a nap, you don't always hit those lower, deeper relaxation points. You really need a little bit of assistance most of the time. So that's really what that's about.
And just in terms of what craniosacral is, can you just define that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really interesting, actually. One of the things I learned is that in the 1800s, my vague understanding is that chiropractic and craniosacral were one modality with a similar goal, which is to help the nervous system open, help it unclench, help the spine decompress, align the spine. That can help free up the nerves, open the energy channels in the body. And chiropractic says, in general, we'll make a physical adjustment to the spine, then everything will fall into place, nerves will open, pinched nerves will unlock, things will feel easier, the body will function fully. Craniosacral says rather than making a motion, we'll give the body the environment to decompress to the degree that the spine falls in place and the nervous system opens. So it's for a similar purpose, but they split off. And now it's very different to practice craniosacral versus practice chiropractic. A chiropractor is a doctor. It's regulated and licensed in a very specific way, and craniosacral typically is not, because craniosacral is non-invasive. You're never doing anything that puts the body in a place of, am I cracking the spine incorrectly and causing permanent damage? So that's the big difference in terms of craniosacral and chiropractic. But craniosacral specifically is looking at the head to the sacrum, craniosacral, and we're looking at this system, like how can we bring wholeness and how can we bring a sense of connection to this whole system? So we have cerebral spinal fluid, which is circulating around the spine, around the head, and we have lymph in the body, we have nerve endings everywhere. And so it's really a holistic way to softly address this system so that people can feel coherent and calm. So specifically what's happening is a gentle decompression of the spine and allowing an unwinding of deep stress inside the body to gently release and shift. It's such subtle work. You often don't feel much in the session, but when you come out of it, you're like, wait a second, I actually feel good. I feel whole. I feel lighter. I feel less pain. Some people drift in and out of sleep. So craniosacral, you can use it for different things, but to wrap up the definition of it so that people can have a really good understanding, one of the common reasons people might seek craniosacral other than unwinding stress in the nervous system is after being in something like a car accident where there's dramatic impact or a blow to the system and it causes shock. And so oftentimes if you have a hard fall or you're in a car crash or something like that, you have this sense of shock in the body, and it's like in the body, and people actually go their whole lives just living in that state without knowing that they're even in it.
Yeah.
So this helps to drop that. So the final piece to wrap up the definition now is this study that was done that I learned in my training where they went to a tribe that doesn't have access to the modern world. They intentionally still live in the forest and they see a helicopter and they're like, whoa, what's that? They're not in the modern world. So they found that the resting state for the rhythm of the body for those people was lower than the modern person's resting state. So what craniosacral does is it helps our modern system drop down to actual resting state, which is something most people don't experience with the way the world is set up now.
Yeah. And I would imagine, even as you talked about the modern world, but even if you hadn't been in some sort of accident, just being around all the electronics and the frequencies that we're constantly being exposed to would have your body buzzing, I would imagine, at a certain rate. And so using craniosacral, in addition to peaceful body work, feels like we all need this.
I've witnessed it firsthand with my dog, of all things. He was having all sorts of issues and somebody suggested that. And he's a hyper little Maltese bundle. And within 2 minutes, he was asleep. I've never seen anything. He was like, phew, never seen anything like that before. So I totally understand what you're talking about. It feels like chiropractic and cranial should work together anyway, right?
Yes, they absolutely do, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that a facilitator practices both per se, but you can find chiropractors who understand craniosacral. And I've been to chiropractors who work in a very soft, gentle way where it's not what you expect. Sometimes you walk in and they go, oh, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Whereas you can also have the experience of them listening to the body, making an adjustment without a physical crack, and then waiting and letting the body shift. And so I have experienced a range, and you can find all sorts of mixes and complementary concoctions of modalities with facilitators. And that's where I really think a lot of the magic happens as well.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time because we have the privilege of talking to so many talented and authentic practitioners. everybody seems to make something their own. You can hear that in what you're both doing. And so, Erin, when you are practicing on someone, it sounds like you are combining peaceful body work with craniosacral and your own intuitive abilities, which is your own secret sauce.
Absolutely.
Tell us about how you work together.
That's a great question. We work together first and foremost in the sense of creating the experience within the retreats we provide for people, the environment and container for them to have a really authentic, vulnerable way to connect with themselves, release what doesn't serve them anymore, and find what they're looking for. We also do facilitate sessions that are very similar, and we can facilitate certain sessions together. We have done that. And when we do that, it's really around energetic field work or constellations mixed with coaching. So it's really a unique thing. I don't even know if it has a specific term that people could recognize per se. You'd have to experience that. But otherwise, really cultivating and hosting these private transformational retreats and to create the container to help people move through what they don't even know they need to move through. They just know there's something.
Yeah. Tell us about the High Vibe Collective and how it came together and to your point, Erin, like these retreats that you're creating, what do they look like? What can someone expect?
We started the High Vibe Collective a little over 3 years ago after we really saw this deep need for a place for authentic transformation to occur with who I will say are the healers of the highest integrity that we can find. Because like I shared earlier, you can find modalities on any street corner here in Sedona. It doesn't mean I would recommend you go there if I care about you. Really, and helping to cultivate within this community that some of these practitioners have, I will say, hand to God, saved my life multiple times over again. As this is a place where many people feel drawn and attracted to come in a very vulnerable and tender healing journey for themselves, we provide that space, right? And most of the guests that we have come through the doors really feel like they're family. They really feel like they're this authentic soul tribe that you're just like, oh, I recognize you. I haven't seen you before, but I recognize you. And for us, what we're doing here is really having and holding that safe container where, these different aspects of transformation can occur through different types of modalities. Like Erin said, we have some sessions that we'll focus on manifestation, self-love for myself. I also do a little bit of energetic work. And then Erin just shared his main focuses too. But we do have specialized practitioners in different individual fields that we also call in as our team to be able to support these. So most of the time we'll have a guest here for 3 full days, 4 nights. We're cooking you organic. Most of it's farm to table. We just got our seeds in the ground here in Sedona. So depending on the season, we've got fresh organic food grown from the land here, which is super powerful. And then being able to really just be in the energy of the land, the property that we have here, it's a gift. And to be able to have this soft, sacred place for just grabbing a book and going and laying in the hammock by the stream or jumping in the pond or going in the wood burning sauna in between sessions. These are all things that are really nourishing for this holistic perspective of healing and just getting out of the day-to-day hustle and bustle so that there can be this remembrance. Most people know what they need, but the common phrase that people say is, oh, I don't know. I'm like, yes, you do. Don't do that to yourself. So it's like really getting back to this place of remembering, and the land here helps with that so much. But the sessions that we're curating in their time here is really personalized, geared towards them and their specific journey. So we have our most powerful, potent sessions we recommend and refer to, but it's very specific to everyone's needs. So most of the time it is just like one person or 2 people, things like that. So we do focus on small groups, though we have definitely had larger group retreats of 25 to 30 people. And those are really powerful too, of course, just different.
That's so cool. I see Karen's face. She's like,
know.
can I get there? And can you also talk about the property and the land?
And why this piece of land?
Yeah, so Sedona's really a unique place because you can live, go to the store, you can go to the movie theater, the post office, you can go shopping, and it looks like you're in a national park everywhere you go. That's really cool. It's like that everywhere. But when you're in the center of town, you're in town. You can tell you're in town, even if you're inside. We used to work out of a commercial space right on the main highway in town. And it was amazing for being centrally located. But to hear a semi go by when you're in a healing process is not optimal per se. It's very real, but not optimal. We've had the opportunity to shift the experience we're providing. We're in a much more secluded area. We're nestled under red rocks, just wrapping views. It's surreal. Every time I look at them multiple times a day, I try to wrap my head around it. I can't quite get it. Sedona is just like that in general. So it feels like you're immersed in nature. There's barely anyone around. We're secluded. We're close enough to town to feel safe, right? But it's a really special way to connect with the land, because otherwise, to really connect with the land, you have to go out on a hike and be in the national forest or somewhere where you're there temporarily and you need a bag. And do I have everything? Is my cell phone still working? Who's that over there? There's no one else around. Is that a coyote? You have to think about all these things to soak up nature most of the time. Are my hiking shoes still tied? Did I lock the car? You have to think about all these things.
Find my way back. That was
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love going on a trek and being in the middle of nowhere. It's amazing, especially in Sedona. But what this property has created the experience to be able to have that immersive and safe experience at the same time. You don't have to think. You're in a safe place. You're on a fenced property. There's no tiger's going to come and get you.
Or coyote.
We don't have tigers here, but it gives you the idea. It's really where you can let go of the outside world and just be immersed in Sedona. So that it's quiet, that it's secluded, that it's still immersed in the red rocks is what makes it really unique and special. Why this particular property? It just happened to be the opportunity available to us. We bought it from someone that we knew who did a lot of the cultivating of the space. Sedona is a dry desert. There's one creek that runs through Sedona. So we're not on that creek, but instead there's a naturally filtered swimming pond with a stream. So we have all the elements here, and just people are blown away when they get here. They're like, oh my gosh, is this real?
A lot of people will be like, this is heaven on earth. And I'm like, I know. Good.
Wow. What a journey and a path that you followed to lead you to that. I always love when we have these conversations for the people that we talk to almost look back at that original self, the one that had that sort of breakdown to break through or was lying on the ground trying to just feel. And now look at where you are. And by listening to your inner self, by taking the steps and really moving forward to listen to where you need to go, by looking at this other person, maybe with a not sure, and watching each other nurture and grow and now being able to grow together. What a story. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and look who you've attracted also into your world because of who you've become and are continuing to become. You look at the integrity in both of you and what you've attracted in these other practitioners and then the seekers that are coming. It's all based on such authenticity. Karen was saying, based off of what we hear from both of you and can see, honestly, from both of you, that authenticity in each other and waiting. And as you both have been in this metamorphosis, really, in who you are, it's really inspiring. I think there's a relationship type book or something that needs to come from the two of you. That's what I'm also sensing. I'm okay with that.
And for Robin and I both, there's something that we've both received from Sedona that once you've experienced it, it never really leaves you. It's always part of you and you always want a little bit more of it. Clearly you're planted in that soil and it's really flourishing for the both of you. So congratulations on doing what you're doing. We're both so grateful that you've shared your journey and your story so far. Can't wait to see what else happens.
Yeah, we look forward to more conversations and seeing you in Sedona at some point soon.
Yeah, we're here for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's the best place that people can find out more about High Vibe Collective as well as yourselves?
Yeah. So the best place is going to be our website. First and foremost, it's SedonaHighVibes.com. And that's a great place to learn more about what you can experience in a retreat and what it looks like to come out on the land and have that experience. Another great place is going to be Instagram at Sedona High Vibes, where you can see a little bit more about us, about the property. You can watch people talk about their experiences. And then we do have some podcast episodes as well on our YouTube and Spotify. More to come.
Excellent. Thank you both so much.
Thank
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast.
Your feedback helps us grow and continue bringing you the conversations and inspo we all need.
We're grateful to be on the journey together.